Hello and welcome back to Channel England Football. My name's Gary and this is episode 3 of the Sunday news updates for the England national team. This week we're going to be discussing the dominance of English clubs within the European Cup competitions, what impact that now has upon Gareth Southgate being able to pick a full squad for those all-important European qualifiers or the warm-ups for those. We're also going to be taking a little closer look at some appointments of from the FA and their backroom staff. And finally, we're going to be taking a real close look at this new badge that the FA have released. That isn't going to be worn on shirts, but it's designed to become more inclusive and is going to be very much part of their social media and online platform. So, a lot to cover this week, so let's get straight into it. Before we get started this week, please like and subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, let me know what your thoughts are at the end of this video, and thank you very much for joining me. Right, so getting straight into it then, looking at this European dominance. So this week, we could have had an all-English European Champions League and Europa League final. Disappointingly, I think we had that, well, we did have that a couple of years ago. Disappointingly, though, this year, Arsenal failed to get past Villarreal within their qualifier. So, you know, kind of disappointing not to have the 4 teams in there. But instead, we've got the 3 English teams. So we've got City, Manchester United and Chelsea, so City and Chelsea in the Champions League, and Man United versus Villarreal in the European League. Now, obviously, I wanted to cover this because I think, like it's been reported in the press, this is excellent news for the English national team. You know, having these big English players, so you've got, you know, Mount, you've got obviously Rashford, you've got Sterling, you've got you know, who else? Stones, you know, they got Foden, of course. You know, all these players getting Champions League final experience can only do them, you know, positives and do them good. Obviously, though, this has then brought up issues for Gareth Southgate. So we are due to face Australia in some warm-up games before the European Championships. Now, according to Sky Sports News, if all 4 teams would have got through, they believe that would have been up to 14 players. So that's almost half of his squad. And obviously, we've got to imagine that by this time, Gareth Southgate's going to be announcing his squad actually for the Euros by, I think we're predicting May the 17th, or week commencing the May the 17th. So if he's announced his squad, but then 14 or 13 of those players aren't available, I think it's going to be about 11 now of the teams that have got through. If 11 of those 26-man squad can't attend, then obviously that's a lot of players within the first team that won't be able to take part in these warm-ups. And I think the main reason for it is that Gareth Southgate wants to give the players a week off. Completely understand that. You know, what you don't want them to do is jump from big game to big game, and certainly not playing games that are unnecessary. Having said that, obviously now it's a big issue for Southgate. You know, these 2 warm-up games, there's not going to be a huge amount. I mean, essentially, if you're going into these 2 warm-up games not knowing your best teams or trying tactics out, we're probably not going to do very well anyway. But the idea is obviously, you know, that isn't what Southgate will be thinking. Gareth Southgate will be thinking, right, a lot of those players in those teams may be starters for me, particularly, you know, Foden, for example, Stones, you know, Maguire, for example. You know, a lot of these players are going to be starting players for Southgate, and what he's going to want is as much time for them to get used to playing with each other as he possibly can. Now, obviously, there's a risk now that is going to be lost. So you've got to weigh the positives up of these teams and these players getting to a Champions League final and them gaining that experience from it, against the negatives where they're going to be missing some quite important warm-up games for the Euros, you know, settling in games. So, you know, it is a fine thing now for Gareth Southgate to balance off. I still think he's going to stick with giving them the week off, which I think is fair enough. You know, I think he should do. But obviously, it's a nice problem to have. You know, if you've got 3 English teams and 11 to 14 of your 26 players that you're going to choose, or around about that. Obviously, we don't know who's going to pick yet. But, you know, at least we're looking almost half the players are going to be playing within these European Cup finals. So, you know, it's great. You know, he's got that experience. These players are going into big games, you know, feeling the nerves, feeling the tension. And obviously going into a tournament, you know, some of these guys, the further we go into a competition, they'll have experienced all this in the Champions League final or Europa League final a few weeks before. So it can only do our guys some good. And obviously, you know, without even going on to inspiring English young kids to, you know, go out and play football. Particularly, a lot of people going on about Foden being from Stocky or Stockport or whatever, however you want to call it. But it's great to see, young local English lads who fans can appeal with going on to do big things and playing in Champions League finals. And that can only benefit just from an inspirational point of view, a bit like the legacy from the London 2012 Olympics. This can only help and inspire young people within this country to go out, put a shirt on and play football. Not that, a lot of kids do enjoy it, but it's, giving that extra push that, young English lads from deprived areas within England can, do well and exceed to the very top of the game. And it proves to us, proves to English fans as well that, not all the best players are out there in Europe or in South America or across the world. We can produce world-class players. I'm looking at Mount and Foden and, even today, I think you've had James at Chelsea. All these English players are having absolute world, top class performances in huge games. Mount and Foden arguably were some of Chelsea's and City's best players in their semi-finals, and that's such a big thing for the English national team to have that. Not only are these players exciting young players, but they're already showing that they can lead in big important games, hold the heads up high and actually take a game by the scruff of the neck and be important players within that. So yes, these finals are going to give Southgate a headache, but again, it's a fantastic headache. It's a nice problem to have. What he may do though is, this obviously opens up the question: does he bring in a reserve list? Does he have 10 or so players? Does he bring different players in? Maybe not 10, but maybe 5 or 6 to cover those gaps. Does he give some players that weren't necessarily going to get in the squad? Does he bring them along for more experience? I don't know. I would suggest, see what we've got, see how many players go. Obviously, you might get some players who say they don't want the week's rest. I very much doubt it, but some may. But I very much expect that a lot of those players won't be part of the Austria games and those warm-up games before the tournament. So then, it is balanced. If it's half the team, chuck out the other half. You would argue that a lot of those players that are going to be playing in these finals would be within England's starting 11. So I think that is the worry for England. But the rest is more important. How many times have we got to tournaments and England have run out of legs, including the World Cup when Croatia knocked us out? We've run out of legs. We all know there's a lot of games within England. I think it's a bit of a myth, though, that England play more games than other countries. But obviously England players in the past do historically run out of legs within the summer. So that week off is going to be important. It really is. And not only that, if he doesn't give them it, he's just going to get blamed. That's the get out of jail card, isn't it, for a lot of these players? Oh, we didn't have a week off, and all this slot. So, give them that week off, make them rested. And I would say deal with what squad you've got there. And yes, if you want to bring in a few squad players reserve players that may make the list if players get injured, fine, bring them in, make sure they're match fit, make sure they're ready. I would suggest that, yes, he wants to give them the week off, but encourage them to come and just be involved. Don't have to play, but come and be a part of the team. Maybe do a few training sessions. So they're still getting that bonding experience before the tournament. So that's one way you could look at it. Whether he says, stay at home or that's what he's getting at, I think it is. Obviously, that does throw up some questions. But, these are professional footballers. A lot of these English players, they've played together before. Yes, it's going to look slightly newer team than what we had at the World Cup or previous World Cup. So it is going to be different. But I fully expect a lot of these players to be able to blend well together and gel well together and pick up those performances. And essentially that's where Southgate's going to earn his bread, if you like. The art of a manager is making players gel together no matter how long you've had them for. And you would argue that world-class players, or I would, world-class players don't need long to gel together. So I think it's a worry that we ain't got to worry too much about. Yes, those warm-up games, it'd be nice to have a full fit squad and be able to test that starting 11. But it's not the be all and end all. The flip side to that is obviously it avoids the risk of some of these players who, yes, Southgate would be tempted to play them within these warm-ups, but it obviously then it negates the chance of them becoming injured or picking up a daft injury against any of these teams in the friendlies. So yeah, there's a lot to consider. Nice headache for Southgate to have, but it's fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic that English teams are dominating Europe. I know I keep seeing it on Twitter, a lot of fans saying, oh yeah, but they're not English, isn't it? But I'm talking about the English players. A lot of these teams have a good contingent of top quality English players who are actually some of their better players, and it's fantastic for the English national team and for Gareth Southgate. So that's my thoughts on that one. So moving on to the next one, you'll see here that I'm just going to put up the new England badge. So England have this week released a new England badge. Now on Twitter initially, and I know a lot of reaction on social media was, oh my god, what are they doing? Everyone thought they were going to be replacing the blue lions, if you like, on the white shield. That isn't happening. England, or the FA, have come out and said, please no, we are not changing this badge. We are changing what we present within our platforms, whether that's social media, on our websites, maybe at marketing events. So each individual, the under-21s will have their own badge on their shirt, but the England FA Association as a whole wanted this one to bring all those guys together. So you'll see on the badge you've got a lion, a lioness and a cub. And then obviously that's to cover all aspects of the England national team, whether that's the ladies senior team, the men's national team senior team, and obviously then the youth teams and 21s, under 17s or whatever. I think it's great. We've got to be open up to these changes. I saw a lot of people on Twitter, dead against it, really kicking up a stink about it. But, I like it. I like the new badge. I like the Lions. I think it's quite a clever idea, given, I look at other nations' logos and badges and they won't be able to do something like this. And it's quite a good idea to use a lion and alter it to represent all aspects of the England national team. English women's national team obviously is gained massively in popularity and coverage in the past 10 to 15 years. So they need involving. Obviously the youth teams over the past 4 or 5 years, no matter what we think of them, have done an excellent job going back to those World Cup wins. So, since St George's has been built properly as well, I think it helps to bring all those things together. And this is what the FA, I think, have done well in bringing the seniors, the ladies, the youth teams, everyone coming together to produce that single English DNA. We're all the same team. We're all supporting each other, and I think it's fantastic. I really do. I'm glad they're not changing the badges, however. My thoughts on these badges are, I love this badge. I wouldn't want them to change it. It would, there's a lot of history. So I think what the FA are doing is respecting the history, which I think is very important, and tradition, and the old culture of the English national team, but then also bringing in the new, and they're bringing in that new on new platforms, so social medias, websites, so I think that's fantastic. No complaint from me. I think it's a great badge. I think it allows the FA to use it in multiple situations and everyone to be proud of it. It brings everyone together, from the ladies national team to the men's to the under-21s, or and beyond. So it's fantastic badge, and I think it's really good that the FA have announced that this week. So yeah, well done the FA. So the final thing I want to cover this week is the appointment of Steve Morrow, I believe it's pronounced, as England's new head of, I'm just going to have a look at this one, the new head of player selection, which is an interesting role. I didn't know that role existed within the FA. I mean, obviously I knew people would advise Gareth Southgate. I'm assuming it's not just for the men's senior team, but obviously I assume that people would advise Gareth Southgate in who to pick his backroom staff, but I didn't realise we had a specific role for head of player selection. But, good luck to him. From what I'm reading here, Morrow used to work with Arsene Wenger for quite a long time, for around 12 years. He's actually a former Northern Ireland defender. I don't know very much about him at all. This is what I'm reading off the FA website. He's a former Arsenal, QPR and Northern Ireland defender. So, he's been around in the game for quite a long time. Interesting appointment. Obviously it's coming at a time when Gareth Southgate will be using him almost immediately, but I'm assuming, obviously, like I've suggested, he's going to be working across all areas of the game, men's, women's and youth, so it's quite a big job. He's probably going to have a lot of scouts around him, realise who's who, and really keep his eye on the ball, and hopefully give his advice. He's going to be working from St George's Park, so going back, this is, the centralisation and everyone working within the same building, which is great. But good luck to him. Like I said, I'm not sure what the role is, what he'll be doing, how much influence he has upon Gareth Southgate's selection, or any selections for that matter, whether he's just there to advise or go to, scout. I don't know. But, good luck to the man. I hope he does really well. I know they use these things in cricket, don't they? They have the selectors in cricket and rugby and things like that. So it does make sense to have something similar within football. But, good luck to him. He's got a tough job straight away, or a tough job to start to assist Gareth Southgate. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming now, if he's coming at this time, I'd be incredibly worried if Gareth Southgate comes in and goes, "Oh, please help me because I ain't got a clue to pick." You know, I'm pretty sure Gareth Southgate knows who he's picking, and it will be Gareth Southgate's choice. But obviously, Steve's there probably to give himself, Southgate some insight or, some thoughts on who he think would be better based on probably a lot more other things other than just performance. So it may be mentality, maybe personal reasons for a player. So yeah, obviously important time for an appointment such as this. Hope he does incredibly well and hope he can benefit Southgate with the imminent within the next week or two selection for the European Championships. So welcome, Steve, and all the best of luck, mate. Right, so that's it for this week's video. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe and leave some comments below. I will be releasing 2 videos next week. So again, on Sunday, I'll be releasing another news video. It's quite a lot. I'm actually amazed when I started the news ones I wouldn't have enough content, but it seems like there's a lot of things coming through quite often. So I'm going to keep doing these to keep me up to date, if anything. And obviously you guys, if you're interested. But next week or the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be doing a couple of videos. So one on who's going to start for England out of Foden, Grealish, Sancho, Sterling, Rashford, all those guys. I think it's a debate that's worth having. There's a lot to discuss there. And maybe something on the goalkeeper situation as well. So a couple of key areas of the pitch where I think there's a few decisions to be made. So watch out for that video next week. And once again, thank you very much for listening. I really appreciate your support. See you again.